Hi, and welcome to VFX Tutors. My name is Josh, and in this tutorial we're going to be continuing with UVing our chainsaw. So in the previous tutorial we just did this quick the broken blade part, so I'm going to go through all of these bits as a tutorial. You might not need to watch all of them, you might have figured out UVing by the first one, but I'm going to go through and I'm still just going to UV all of it so you can see, just in case you might want to skip to something that I've UV'd. Generally it's all pretty much gonna be the same. Your main thing is keep the textile density the same and make sure things are straight, basically. So what did we do? Let's hide all the stuff. So we've done that. Let's hide our duplicates. So we've done the katana blade. We won't do that yet. So we're kind of working our way down. We've done both of these sort of chainsaw bars. And I guess we can work onto this because that's... which is that? Is jewel sprocket. That's effectively still a duplicate. We won't UV both of these. We'll just UV one side, then duplicate it over. So let's start with a right one. And I'm just going to control 1, so that's all we see. And here we have our sprocket. And you can see with our existing texture on there, the UVs are crazy. Can't really explain it any other way, that they're just crazy. And yeah, we're going to fix them. Shouldn't be too difficult. So let's open this up, and hopefully you've got it all named already, so it's nice and organized. So let's start. Let's hide all these. And let's just start with... So I'm just going to start with my basic bearing housing. Because this is, out of all it, probably the most complex shape. It's not super complex, but I expect once you've got to UVing up to this stage, you already understand it. It's just the way I'm going to do all these tutorials. I'm just going to go through and just UV all of them. So what I want to do is, first of all, because you can see that the UVs are completely crazy. This is probably a good example for showing why automatic is bad. So I'll just go on my UV editor, and you can see from where we've been modeling, it's crazy from all the extrusions and all the editing I've done from it. It's just kind of stacked it all on top. So I know we tried automatic previously before and it kind of worked reasonably well, but we don't really want to use it. So I'm just going to click automatic, and hopefully, even though this has still done an all right job, I don't want my UVs like this because they're all kind of, they're not organized to me. So that's still not, automatic UV seems to be, I've not used it in a while, so it might have got better. So, but my workflow is pretty much the same. I'll always manually do the UVs really, because it's just the best way to do it. And it does take time, but once you have the nice UVs, it's a lot easier. So first of all, I'm just going to go to my UV and just delete them straight away. And then select my object and go UV camera based. So now, because we can't create, and I'll mention this probably every time, it's just someone might be picking up just this tutorial, but you can't create seams with nothing, with no UVs. So I'm just going to go in my unsubdivided mode so I can just easily select edges. So I want to look at this and just think, okay, so with like all UVing, is whoever's texturing it, they may have their own sort of quirks on what they want. Generally most UVing is all the same, but it's always good to get in touch with whoever's doing your UVing, texturing, because they might have some very specific things that they want. Cool, so I will Going to start selecting these edges. And depending on what sort of parts they are, if they're hero parts or if they're not hero parts, you might want to tackle them in different ways. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to my UV toolbox, cut, and as I do this, I'm just going to, because it's kind of stacked, I'm just going to throw them off to the side so I don't get them mixed up. Now I'm just going to go through and select edge loops and cut them. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to select an edge for the seam for both of them and the inside. So I'm also going to cut that in there, so now there's a seam on the edge. So UV shell. I'm just going to pull this out to the side. I'm just going to break it apart for now, because it's not a super complex shape, but there may be some issues that we may have. So instead of cutting it apart, then unfolding it and all that, I'm just going to strip it down to the parts that I feel I kind of want to, sort of break into UV parts. Then I'll figure out how it's going to lay out. So it does look like we may need some supporting edges in here, quite possibly. There may be a reason that I've done that once we, if I'm honest, I can't quite remember if there was a reason for not adding them there, but what we'll do is just, oh, I'm actually grabbing the wrong bit. Once we start unwrapping, we'll take a closer look to how the geometries are behaving. Because I think this is actually quite a soft, it's got a soft bevel, it's not like hard machined. So that would definitely need a, we'll cut that off. We'll add extra seams in afterwards if we need to. But we're just going to break it apart for now, because we've also got this sort of edge and lip in here that we may have to break up. So now I've got those two loops. And we'll definitely need to break those edges up. So luckily we modelled it nicely and we can select a lot of the edge loops. It kind of looks looking a bit messy here, but we can sort of see how we're deconstructing the whole thing. And you know what, I will also add maybe, I don't know, we'll want to sort of cut this for sure, but let's see how it goes. It could possibly be fine. Let's cut through there. Maybe we actually want to, might actually want to sew that back up and unfold these as a separate entity. But this particular thing is sort of also, like, you can spend a lot of time making sure they're correct, but also knowing how you're going to texture this is quite important, because it could mean the difference between having directional textures like stainless steel or something like that, but because I know this is sort of a molded sort of metal, it's probably going to be more procedural, so may get away with it. Possibly some sort of grooves around here that we can sort of see, but it's not a close detailed thing. So like I say, we'll see where we're at when we because once we've UV'd this, we'll still do a basic material blocking at the end so we can get a better idea. It just gives us a much clearer of how we're going to texture it. But we want to get the UVs done first, and we want to get them done as tidy as possible. So we will need to make some sort of cuts here. It's just thinking where we could do it. We might be okay, because it's such a small detail. I guess the only thing that I'm kind of worried about is... let's just add another cut here to keep it symmetrical, and we'll figure it out afterwards. If we need to sew it back up, it's not a problem. So let's select our shell. So that's all one bit now. So we could probably sew that back together. We could probably keep that as one. And don't worry that it's stretching, so we can fix that. So let's sew. Let's not do that. So let's just re-sew those edges. Because then we can make a cut somewhere else. It's a bit more useful for us. Instead of just cutting where we want, we probably want to keep that, and we can add cuts probably up here. And we can see how that goes. Cool. So maybe we even sew that together. Let's just see how it goes. Like I say, it depends on how you're going to texture it. Everyone textures things slightly different. Well, saying that, it's probably everyone textures stuff fairly similarly. But yeah, we can worry about that afterwards. I'm actually going to sew this back together. Cool. So we've got all. We probably should cut these as well. So I'm just going to select any random edge in there. Just make sure it's cut, because it's going to be hidden by bolts anyway. So, cool. So let's go select our UV edge. This needs sewing back together for sure. Oh, edge. So I'm just going to sew all this back together, because I probably shouldn't have cut it so frivolously, but cool. So now I'm just going to Control U and unfold that. And if I go to my transform, hopefully it's saved my pixel density size. So I'm going to set that, and you can see that it's tiny, because that's the size of the textile density that's going to be matching everything else. So I'm just going to place this in the corner, and like before, I'm just going to use this as my waiting room. I'm going to select these edges and sew these. Then Control U. Just going to rotate this around, because you can use, where are we? range and layout, you can orientate the shells, but sometimes if it's not quite, it will do it now because I've already adjusted it. It won't always find it, so sometimes you might have to give it a little helping hand. And you can use straighten UVs because you can see it's got a slight curve on there, which is going to happen a lot with UVs. It's going to pick up curves and stuff. And you can use straighten UVs, and if it's not complex UVs, it should work pretty well. Or you can use optimize, and that should help you out quite a bit. So now we'll just go to our set, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to roughly place these in a nice sort of fashion. Just so, what I like to do when I'm sort of organizing UVs, I'll sort of conceptualize how many blocks. I try and keep sections in blocks. So I'll try and keep everything in like a block basically. So when I do need to move them, I can just shift them into the block space without overlapping, instead of just randomly placing them. So at the moment I'm just working in this 2x2, and I'm just going to fill this up, and if I need to get bigger, I'll go to 3x3. So I'm just going to select this bit. I'm going to have a look at what's going on. So the same with that, we could probably sew that back together. Control U, or you can use the modify unfold. You'll get used to using Control U. So if I use orientate shells now, it'll go that way. If I rotate it, it will still go back to that way. So sometimes it doesn't do it, sometimes it does, but it's not a big problem. So we can straighten the UVs and straighten it out, but be careful with straighten UVs, it can give you some funky results. So I always like to do a little bit of an optimize afterwards, and hopefully that should fix any strange occurrences. And I'm going to set that. This is slightly longer, but I'm going to make sure that I'm quite methodically keeping it nice and tidy. I probably could actually tuck this into that corner, because it's not necessarily a directional thing here. It's like I say, a lot of things can be guided by your texture artist or how you're going to texture it. So it's always good to keep an eye on that. And you can see we're coming out of this sort of 2x2. It's not a problem. It's just nice to work within an area that you know is kind of somewhere where you can move it. I'm just going to Control U on that. That'll probably be fine as it is. I'm going to set. So you might get instances where doing this is fine, because it's a procedural, and you might get instances where it's not fine, where they want to have the grooves going around, and it's easier for a texture artist to do a sort of a linear sort of procedural around there, and to do that they would have to sort of make a radial texture. So that's where it can get a little bit tricky sometimes, where it just won't do what you want to do, but you can cut it up and edit it, but for this case, because I know it's going to be more of a pressed, it's not sort of stainless steel grooves in there, it's more of a pressed metal. It's not called pressed, it's not forged, it's gone from my mind. Cast metal, that's the one. So cast metal's more, that probably won't fit in there, but even so, we can add a radial sort of texture on there. But I don't think we're even going to see this, so it's also trying not to get too hung up, unless it's like a hero thing. It's just one of those things you got to pick and choose what's beneficial to the entire shot. Yeah, I can't remember if I cut this. I don't think I did. So I'm just going to cut that there. Control U. That's it. If I orient, see it rotates around. Sometimes you can just do it manually there, but once you've told it you want it that way, it'll figure it out. Then we can set it. and drag it down. And this will probably be quite a lot larger. And you can choose whether to cut this into 2, so it's not so big, or leave it as it is. I imagine this is not going to be taking up a huge amount of space, so it should be fine, I think. So we're pretty close to almost doing this, so let's just Control U on that. This is our only one that's a little bit suspect, because we've also got these bits here, and they're going up, but like I said, it's going to be more of a procedural cast metal look, so, and we can always adjust this if it's not giving us, if it's making it difficult in texturing, but we obviously want to try and alleviate all those issues before we even get to that point. So I can actually start moving this around, and you want to make as much use of the space as possible. I know because we're doing, it's probably not going to fit in there because that's a bit tight squeeze, so it's not worth really forcing it. You can see we're doing pretty well keeping this all in sort of almost a 2x2. I'm just going to Control U on that. Yeah. Where's orientate? Orientate. Set. Then I can put these in here and be quite. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll put them. I might find more useful things to put in there. Whereas down here, maybe not. If it fits in this, try and use up as much of the smallest space as possible. And we forgot to cut that, so let's cut that there. Control U. Orient. And I imagine by the time you've got to this point, you've got a really good understanding of UVing, so not necessarily have to watch all of them, but you might find something useful. But it's kind of the way I like to do things. I just want to go through the entire process. And there will be times where I'm probably repeating myself, and I apologise for that. So, I thought that was a weird thing there, but it's the number. Cool, so that took, in reality that wouldn't take very long to do if you're just powering through it. Because I was talking through it, it might take a little bit longer, but yeah, we've pretty much done that part of the sprocket. What we can do, we can just check it on smooth. It's always good to check they've got nothing strange going on. It looks like we do have some stuff here. It's going a bit funky. So we can check, because when we send this to texture, we will have to do, because we've modeled it in a sort of low res state, when we bake off our maps, we'll have to up res this, so this sort of stuff will probably disappear. But what we can do for now, we can have a look at our attribute editor. Go to smooth mesh, Capital Clark, and sometimes this fixes it quite nicely. Yeah, you can see it's smoothed it out there. Not always, sometimes it will do something else, but most of the time it will do a pretty good job at preserving the UVs. As I say, we'll probably still make a high-res version of this when we take it to texturing, just so when we do bake our sort of maps, it's not baking it to a sort of, you'll get the faceted sort of artifacts where it's baking these edges, whereas we kind of want it baked. We want to bake it how it looks, but that's way far ahead of where we're at now. So I'm just going to Control 1 on that, and we can double check our texel density, and it all looks pretty good. I know we've only just done this one, but I'm going to try and keep the tutorials quite short and broken down, so I'm not doing loads, having really long ones. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.